Hey, Sleepy Sheepy here. Today I wanted to talk about how to create a PvP centered build and character explicitly for PvP and really nothing else. So I'm going to start by showing off just kind of the only two characters that I have that have created all the content on my YouTube channel. So you'll see here that there's only two. One is level 30 and has 23 hours of playtime, and the other is 85 and has 430 hours of playtime. So the first one, Sleepy, is going to be the one that I started out playing Elden Ring on. And going into this character, I knew that I wanted it to be PvP centric. So I made a lot of decisions about how to set this build up. And you'll see that it's level 85 right now. What I'm going to do is go ahead and revert an earlier save, and it will be level 60. And that will be more indicative of kind of the core build setup that I've used for all my invasions at different levels and for different showcases. All right, so I just went and reverted my save. So I'm on PlayStation, you don't need to be on PC, and I believe you can do the same thing on Xbox, where you use an earlier backup to overwrite the current version of save that you have existing. So I just went back, reverted my save to an earlier point where I'm level 60, and you can see that my playtime went down to 422 hours. So it was at 430 before, which means I spent about 8 hours on my previous build, and we can go ahead and check out this specific setup here. So this is the setup that I beat the game at for this character. I've 100%ed the game. I have pretty much everywhere on the map unlocked. You can see that the Erd tree is burning, and this is level 60. So the first kind of barrier to creating a PvP-centric character is beating the game at a lower level. I would say use whatever setup makes the most sense for you. For Malenia, I used dual curved swords that I seppuku'd first. Like, I had no pride when it came to the way that I wanted to fight the bosses, and really just set things up the way that would be most efficient for creating this character. And this is what I go to every time I revert my save. This is going to be somebody that has a ton of really useful stuff. So we have all the neutralizing stuff, we have starlight shards, we have, a ton of rune arcs. Not that those are really necessary for PvP. We also have tons of just crafting materials in general. And tons of smithing stones. So the highest weapon level for this character is plus 15. And these are just kind of some of the base weapons that I use on a regular basis for almost all builds, which is why that they're set up here. And this means that every time I revert my character, I can invade from the range of 60 plus 15 for level and weapon level up to anything. So I can do a level 60 character, I can do an 80 character, I can use the runes to, upgrade to, probably level 200 or something, and upgrade my weapons as much as possible. Now, it is worth noting that some people will just do a 125 build with plus 25 weapons, but they do kind of miss out on that mid-range level, so I would say this is a good spot to be in. And what I've done is I haven't used any of my Ancient Dragon Smithing Stones or Somber Ancient Dragon Smithing Stone. It's pretty useful to have accumulated a bunch of stuff that's going to be useful. These Smithing Stones I just bought over a long period of time. When you're only leveling to level 60, you're going to end up with a bunch of runes, and that allows you to buy tons and tons of consumables. So you'll notice too, like I have, maxed out lightning great bolts because I like to use the jar cannon, and you can do something similar for, the great bow if that's something that works for your build. So I would say that's the first part of setting up this build, is just beating the game at a low level and accumulating as much consumable stuff as possible. So when I was running this build, I didn't want to use consumables so that I would have them every time I reverted my save. I also wanted to mention that when I first started playing this game, I didn't have any real life friends who were playing Elden Ring and were into PvP, and I wasn't super integrated into the community yet. So I didn't have anybody to drop me anything, and I wasn't able to have the kind of infinite stacks of neutralizing boluses or something that you see on this character now. But what I did do was gradually upgrade this character over time. So what I would do is I would, play on this character somewhat, get some items that I wanted, get some weapons that I wanted, maybe chase down Vike's Spear or something if I didn't have that yet. But over time, I did kind of get into the community and find people who would help me duplicate weapons. And so if you get comfortable reverting your saves, you'll be able to drop somebody the same weapon, then revert your save, and then they can drop it back to you, and then you have the weapon from your earlier save, and they have a duplicate copy of it that they can drop you back. So that allowed me to get, tons and tons of unique weapons without going on to New Game Plus and just grinding through the entire course of the game and needing to, show back up in other places. So this is something that took a lot of time, and I made tons and tons of content without having anybody to drop me stuff. This was just kind of through the benefits of playing the game to like a 100% capacity on a low level and saving my consumables. And then, maybe I would have preferred having 2 claymores, but I could use, a claymore in my main hand and then a different greatsword in my offhand. So it's not necessary to have other people to help you create your PvP build, but it is useful. So if you have a friend that can, drop you stuff or help you dupe stuff, that's going to put you in a great spot for your earlier version. But if you don't, that's okay. There are lots of people on Reddit who will be happy to help you out. Patches Emporium is a subreddit where people are really generous and helpful. If you're playing on PlayStation or Xbox, you're less likely to get dropped, like a hacked item. That can happen for sure. So always keep a backed up save that you can revert back to if you're worried about that kind of thing. But for the most part, it's really just a lot of people helping other people out, and also just kind of be respectful in that environment. Don't say, hey, I'm brand new here and I'd like you to drop me every single weapon in the game, all the armor sets and every consumable. People probably aren't going to be so happy to do that. But, if you need a great sword or something, ask for it. And, you might make friends along the way, find somebody that you want to dupe for them. They'll dupe for you, just kind of create relationships within that environment and help each other create PvP builds. But it's not necessary in terms of getting started with a good PvP centric build where you're able to get a lot of variety in builds. As long as you can reset your build, use larval tears every time you want to reset a save, and then have access to runes, you'll be in a good spot. So let's say you don't have, just a bunch of Lord runes. I was functioning on like 26 Lord runes that somebody had dropped during an invasion, early on, and I just didn't use them. I just waited until I was going to do a build and could revert back to the save where I had 26 of them. So I would say, even if you don't do that, you can leave your character in a position where you've just farmed a ton of runes. So the best place to do that, I would say, is probably going to be over by the Mogwin Palace area. I forget, I think it's the Palace Approach Ledge Road that you're going to want to go to. And you can farm a bunch of runes and then just not do anything with them, save that save, and then you can revert back to that previous state after you use those runes to level up. So obviously it's useful to have a fat stack of the Lord runes, but it's not necessary, and you can really end up with a ton of variety in different characters just by the fact that you can use larval tears and revert your saves. So this is kind of a long-winded explanation about different ways to set up your character, but I would say if you are interested in PvP and you want to try a lot of variety with different builds, you don't need to commit one character or make a new character every single time. As long as you get comfortable reverting your saves, you'll be able to make a different build every single day and just kind of try different levels, try different weapons, try different allocations of stats, and you'll always be able to kind of revert to this initial place where you just have everything you would need for a future build. So I know that was kind of a long explanation of just kind of my setup and my process, and I just wanted to put this out here because sometimes I get questions about how something I do is possible, and reverting your saves and getting comfortable reverting your saves is going to be a great way to just unlock access to so many different ways to set up your character and just so much more exploration. The fact that you can't do that naturally within the context of just like saving your character through the regular software of the game is a little bit frustrating, but you don't have to be on PC to work around that. You can revert your save on Xbox and PlayStation. I can put a link in the description to just kind of the video that I watched in terms of using the cloud to back up your save and then always using that just kind of in the future. But really, I just kind of wanted to put this out there so that more people have the opportunity to mix up their builds, try weird stuff. And, if you see me using a different build every single day, it's not because I have 1,000 different characters. It's just because I'm comfortable with backing up my saves, resetting to a point where I have good stuff for PvP, and just moving forward with that. And I think the more people that understand that, the more people will have a variety of playstyles and kind of just get to explore this game more in depth. So if this was stuff you already knew, I apologize for kind of a long video on something you probably realized before now that you knew all this stuff, but this was my process, and I just kind of wanted to say that you don't have to be on PC, you don't have to know people. Using Patches Emporium on Reddit is going to be helpful, but not necessary, and you don't need every single item and 14 copies of it like you might see on some like really high level PvP videos. So you can really make do with just larval tears and reverting saves, and starting a new playthrough with the intention of it being PvP focused. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions about this process or the way I do things, please let me know in the comments. I'll be happy to kind of explain things in further detail, but hopefully you learned something here, or this was useful for you in terms of exploring new content and build creation. Yeah, thanks so much, and that's all I've got.